Let's talk about July 19th, 2024, the day the world's digital heartbeat just stopped. This wasn't some Hollywood-style cyber attack. Nope, it was something way smaller, and honestly, a whole lot scarier. This is the story of how one tiny, flawed file brought the entire global economy to a screeching halt.
In the blink of an eye, this is how many Windows devices were knocked offline. We're talking 8.5 million machines, from corporate laptops to critical systems in hospitals, all running CrowdStrike security software, all crashing at the exact same time to that dreaded blue screen of death.
And the real-world impact? It was immediate, and it was pure chaos. Within just the first 24 hours, over 5,000 flights were canceled around the globe. Airports literally became parking lots. The entire aviation industry just stopped working.
And the price tag for all this? Absolutely staggering. We're looking at an estimated $5.4 billion in direct losses, and that's just for US Fortune 500 companies. This wasn't some minor technical glitch. This was a multi-billion-dollar catastrophe sparked by one single point of failure.
Okay, so Section 1, a world at a standstill. What does that even look like? Well, this was a technological meltdown on a scale we've just never seen before, and it paralyzed the very systems that our modern lives run on. And look, we're not just talking about your email being a little slow. We're talking about hospitals having to cancel surgeries, banking systems completely frozen, news outlets going dark. The absolute bedrock services we all take for granted every single day were just gone. You know, this quote from the researchers really just hits the nail on the head. It drives home that this was not just another outage. This was a globally synchronized failure, which is a terrifying new kind of disaster for our totally interconnected world.
Just take a look at the data from the airline industry. I mean, it's a mess across the board, right? But look at Delta. Over 1,200 cancellations. That's nearly double the next airline on the list. Now, that's not just a run of bad luck. It was a symptom of a much, much bigger problem we're about to get into. All right, Section 2, the invisible culprit. Because with this much chaos spreading this fast, everyone on the planet was thinking the same thing. This has to be a massive attack. But the truth? It was something way more ordinary and, frankly, way more unsettling.
This was the question on everybody's lips, right? You had to be wondering, is this it? Is this the big one? The global cyber event that we've all been warned is coming? Because it sure looked and felt like it. And the answer was a shocking no. The bad guy wasn't some shadowy hacker group. It was an internal mistake. The very company that millions of businesses trust for their protection became the source of their paralysis. I mean, the irony is just staggering. So to really get why this was so bad, you have to understand what CrowdStrike's software actually is. It's not just some simple app. It's what's called a next-generation antivirus. And to do its job, to hunt for really sophisticated threats, it needs deep admin-level access to the absolute core of a computer's operating system. This makes it super powerful, yeah, but it also creates an incredibly dangerous single point of failure if anything at all, goes wrong. Which leads us to the main event here. Section 3, how did this happen? How could one single company's mistake literally freeze the entire world? Well, the answer comes down to a tiny, tiny file and a massive, almost unbelievable failure in procedure. So get this. According to CrowdStrike's own report, the problem was a tiny configuration file, not even a big software update. This little file had one flaw in it that basically made it ask the computer for information in a way the computer just couldn't handle. The result? The whole system just panicked and shut itself down. And here is the part that is just mind-boggling, and this is from their own report. The flaw went undetected during validation checks. The safety net, the one thing that's supposed to catch exactly this kind of error, completely failed. That one faulty file just sailed right on through. Which brings us to the real multi-billion-dollar question. Even if a bad file slips through, how on God's green earth does it get sent to millions of critical systems all at the exact same time? Why wasn't this tested on, say, 10 computers first? This is the core breakdown that turned the simple bug into a global economic disaster. This visual makes it crystal clear. On the left, you've got what happened. One update pushed to everyone all at once. It's fast, sure, but it's insanely risky. On the right is the industry standard, what should have happened. It's called a staged rollout. You test on a small canary group. If they're good, you slowly roll it out to more and more people.
This basic, common-sense safety step was skipped. And, well, the world paid the price. All right, Section 4, the multi-billion-dollar price tag. We know the what, the who, and the how. Now let's really dig into the sheer scale of the financial damage that this one mistake caused. So, remember those grounded flights, the airport chaos? Analysts figured out that just 6 Fortune 500 airlines lost an estimated $860 million. A huge chunk of the pain was concentrated right there in the travel sector, all from that one little file. And this chart just drives home how lopsided that pain really was. We saw earlier that Delta got absolutely hammered, and here's the proof in black and white. But now we really have to ask, why? Why did Delta suffer so much more and for so much longer than everybody else? The answer is just painful. Because their automated systems were all bricked, Delta's IT teams had to physically go to every single computer, every server, every check-in kiosk, and manually fix and reboot them, one by one. It was a slow, agonizing process that shows you the real-world slog of fixing a digital failure when you can't just fix it remotely. Okay, last section. Section 5, Lessons from the Meltdown. You don't cause a global catastrophe of this magnitude and then just go back to business as usual. So what are the big lessons here, and what's being done to make sure this never, ever happens again? Well, to their credit, CrowdStrike immediately put out their new game plan. And would you look at that? Right at the top of the list, canary deployments and staged rollouts. They are now finally putting in place the exact safety measures that would have prevented this whole disaster in the first place. But look, the lesson here isn't just for CrowdStrike. This was a massive wake-up call for literally everyone. The number one takeaway? You cannot have a single point of failure for your critical systems. That means using different vendors, building in backup systems, and never, ever blindly trusting an update, even if it comes from your security company. You have to plan for the day your guardian becomes the threat. And that really leaves us with this final, pretty unsettling question, doesn't it? We've built our entire modern world on this foundation of digital trust, this assumption that our core systems will just work. July 19th proved just how fragile that trust really is. It showed us all that the biggest threat might not be a brilliant hacker, but a simple, preventable mistake, multiplied 1,000,000 times over by the speed and scale of our technology. The real challenge now is figuring out how to rebuild that trust on something a lot stronger.